Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back again. We're here for the Southeast Asian qualifiers. It is, of course, going to be for the Kiev Major. Blaze, how you doing? We had a long night last night, and we got another long one ahead of us. You feeling up to the task?
Well, it's day two. I've got 5 hours of sleep, so I'm raring to go. I'm excited about it. We got to run on something I like to call Dota Adrenaline and
Yeah,
just enjoy the SEA Dotes because we've had some magnificent games throughout the qualifier so far, and looking for more today.
totally. We'll talk more about that later, probably, once we end up getting into the, well, probably not into the draft, but we're going to hop into the draft right now, as it is Execration facing off against RRQ. I feel like even players and people that follow the Dota 2 scene that don't really follow SEA that well might have heard of RRQ by this point because they're always in the regionals
Oh yeah,
every single
every time.
time. And they're
Well, they went up. They did not make it through open qualifiers once.
right,
There was
okay.
one time. That was the time they eliminated TNC from the first open qualifier.
Right, exactly.
It didn't make it through, and then TNC get through the second open qualifiers and gets top four at TI.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing that's nuts about it. You end up having that situation here, and they've in some ways kept with a lot of the same folks. Kel'Thuzad, you've got Koala as well. I think I've seen Zephyr around for a long time too.
Decent bit, yeah.
So it's a team, but it's also kind of along the same lines of like an alternate attacks, or if you think in like the NA region, a
Mhm.
Team Freedom, maybe slightly below the level of Team Freedom relative to the rest of the teams that are there for power rankings. Where I'm not expecting much from. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting because I've seen RRQ develop over a long time. I actually got to cast their very first tournament that they entered as a brand new team back in 2013.
Holy crap!
And they were essentially a pub stack from Indonesia. They did not have any real credentials. They were just all from the same general area. They loved playing together, stacking together. So they entered some tournaments and they were a hit. They were really showing a lot of potential, but they did have to change up their roster a couple of times. MVP Hot Six poached a couple of their players at one point, and they did go through a lot of changes. So yeah, Facade, Koala, they're really the only long-standing members, and the rest have kind of been falling into play to fill the gaps here and there. So that doesn't really set up too many big expectations for the team as a whole. Like you said, they've never really made it through the regionals despite participating in the vast majority of them. And it's just I'm I want to root for these guys because I know that they have a good time playing together. And there's a lot of those national teams that just like they focus on being a tight knit group and working on team coordination more than anything else. But in the end, I do feel like there are certain members of Execration that will have them just outgunned in terms of player skill.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also Execration coming into this maybe underperforming pretty significantly. Both of these teams are sitting at 1-3 after the first day of round robin. They need to make something happen if they want any hope at all of going into the actual main event. Like it's just going to end up being a huge comeback potential if they are able to make it work. But 3 losses at this stage, they would basically need to win out the day if they want any hope to make it into the playoffs. And unlikely that that's going to happen if they start off the day with a loss here. So must win for both teams.
Oh, most definitely. So we're going to be seeing a pretty interesting draft here. A lot of early aggression and tempo coming in from RRQ with this Venge pickup now. I could even see this being a carry Venge in the safe lane position. That would make it so that would be mid Wind Ranger, and the Sankey could either play the 3 or the 4 position. But I do think that they have a lot of good push potential early on with Focus Fire, with the Vengeance Aura, and they could just take it to the Lone Druid before he really comes online. Because you talk about those power spikes for the heroes. He gets attack range at 10, he gets extra damage 15. Those are things that you can kind of fight fire with fire and just try to have the kill advantage, have the tower advantage, and to continue to make it so that the big farm items don't come out on the hero.
Yeah, and that's something where I think this has to be intentional because all throughout the Southeast Asian qualifiers, you have Lone Druid and Centaur, very highly prized heroes, and to take neither of them in the first round and give them both up to your opponents means you have to have something in your mind. You have to have something there that you're expecting to run. And now Execration taking a Rubik, a little bit of the D push, as well being able to be a nice team fighter. This might be an answer to a perceived threat that they're seeing of early aggressions from RRQ. Like, can we see a combination of maybe a Chen as a last pick here out of RRQ with the Venge in the core role, or some other one of those early pushing heroes? What's your read on what they need?
I mean, at this point in time, you can do things a lot of different ways. Obviously, Execration have pretty good active roaming supports now. So there's going to be a lot of activity around the runes, around early movement, and
this kind of early ganking action. I think at this point, RRQ, they're probably going to be looking for something along the lines of just a kind of a frontlining support that can make sure the vulnerable heroes like the Wind Ranger don't have to get too much into the heat of things. Just kind of give them a little bit of space and buffer there. Execration, on the other hand, they're definitely going to be looking for something just more like a playmaking mid, something that's going to be able to go toe-to-toe in lane with the Invoker and be able to just go and start snowballing pretty early on.
All right. Well, we'll have to see which heroes fit the bill for those needs. And as for now, the Drow Ranger is going to be banned out. That would have been kind of an interesting look. I mean, Vengeful Spirit's been run more often than not now in the support role, so it's almost the double bluff where you could have taken it back in the, or rather run the core role, so you could do it in the double buff and run it in the support role. But not going to be available now. And one last ban for RRQ. Do you think that they would have gone Drow in that instance? Was that what they were looking for, possibly?
I mean, it definitely has a unique quality where it goes really well with the Focus Fire, and then the Vengeful Spirit and Drow has been a classic for a while, just the dual aura aspect, enhancing that right-click a lot. In this potential situation now, I wouldn't say that's going to be the case. I mean, you have to figure out what you really want to do with this Wind Ranger. Now you gotta have the Wind Ranger and the Invoker. I would both consider them really solid mids, but both of them have been played in the safe lane in the past. So I'm curious how that all plays out and kind of shakes down. And we'll have to see what they have in mind. I know that back when they had a player named Minerva on RRQ, they used to run an off-lane Wind Ranger that went very aggressive, and he was able to get some really sick shackle shots early on, and he was able to usually like pressure the off lane and also get a lot of farm. Like he would even go Midas on this Wind Ranger in that situation, and I remember that's something that Wings kind of took up later on. But in this case, they don't obviously have a player that really excels in that environment anymore, so I wouldn't necessarily say that they're going to be able to capitalize on that front, especially against a hero like Lone Druid, who if you overstep your boundaries a little bit too far, you can be punished pretty heavily.
Well, certainly taking their time with this last one. We'll see if it is going to be the Wind Ranger in an off lane or just that support role. I would love to see a Chen here. I don't know if they're going to go for it, but could be pretty nifty. As Execration, the classic build of like a jug in the mid lane sometimes. Oh, it's already been banned out in the first phase. What am I talking about? I'm crazy.
10 seconds remaining.
Oh, 8 seconds left. Lone Druid could go mid as well. Wouldn't be terrible.
Yeah, it happens, but I think they're perfectly fine with it being a safe lane. And we'll see the Weaver picked up here, so still a lot of good physical damage, push potential. They really have a lot of simple target focus here, though. Sand King's really the only AoE-centric hero. Invoker could hit some good combos, and that'd be fine as well, but really they look to isolate a single target and bring them down very quickly. And they do have enough setup to guarantee Sunstrikes, either with the Shackle Shot or just with Magic Missile or Burrow Strike. You should be able to get some pretty consistent Sunstrikes. But that being said, I still think there's a lot of room for counterplay. Execration, they can get the Stampedes off. They can just be running in there with some heroes that are very capable of taking the fight to these kind of squishier ranged heroes. And I'm very scared for RRQ. I think that while their lineup can work really well, if our Execration failed to close the distance, as soon as the Blink on Centaur comes online, or just even when Stampede's available, it feels like Execration will be able to outmaneuver them. And they go for a hero that can't really be punished by this draft very effectively in the Templar Assassin, because her refraction charges defensively will pretty much always be on. Like, you could do pretty quick auto attacks with the Wind Ranger Focus Fire, or the Invoker with Cold Snap or Forge Spirits can break it down at a decent clip, but overall you're still able to absorb so much damage with that spell.
Well, a great last pick, certainly for Execration, and it feels like whenever they do win, it's off the back of one of these snowbally mids that can just completely eviscerate opponents. So, gonna have to see how this one works out. I do think that was a good last pick. I also think that RRQ were thinking about the Drow, and that's why it took so long for that last pick Weaver to come out. So we're going to hop into the game now. Our first one of the second day of the SEA regional qualifiers. It's going to be Execration facing off against RRQ.
Nice. Very nice.
Oh my god, did you see that transition?
Just beautiful.
Thank you, man.
You should work in production, dude.
No, I really shouldn't.
You should trap yourself in a box and write memes all day. It's not the life, I don't think. But Here we go. At least the initial pause to get things going. Templar Assassin, I think, is going to be a good overall pick for this environment just to deal with the Invoker. I gotta say that it just seems like ease of execution is the playstyle that Execration is looking at. Like, RRQ, they have to find ways to get the Sand King in play very early on with limited items, limited farm, and then they just have to really carefully position themselves so that they don't get caught up by like a double hoof stomp or just anything that would create difficulty for them. I mean, they do have a couple of responsive tools in the Nether Swap, in the time lapse, but generally speaking, it's going to be, I think, Execration being the aggressors and RRQ on the defense pretty early.
And just waiting for everybody to get back into this game. We can try, apparently. Good, good, good. Have you seen, by the way, the new showcase mode? You gonna take a look at it yet?
Yeah. Oh, that's actually kind of decent.
Isn't that great? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I've never been too into the cosmetics, to be honest with you, so the hats never seem too fascinating to me. But there are a couple out there that are just so flashy that they're pretty cool to look at.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. I think that it's sort of, it's that little extra bit of flavor that can sometimes make a game stand out. You put in the extra work, it's like production, we could say, as a matter of fact. You know, you put in one extra little bit of effort, and suddenly everything's all smooth, all handy-dandy. We do see Eden move out across the map, get down 2 really nice observer wards here. There was another ward placed down by the Ogre, who I do believe, was he still under smoke when that happened?
Yeah, he was smoked, so
okay.
they didn't see it.
Well, that will end up being fine. And it does look like they are going to be sending that Wind Ranger off with a null tally. So is this going to be in the... What's this build then, I guess? It's going to be the straight up off lane. Do they send Eden up there as well?
Yeah, so he's going to definitely need some support here. So it's going to be Zephyr and Koala doing the dual off lane here. Like I said, they've done this before just with a different set of players. So they essentially have a core Wind Ranger in the off lane bullying back the opponent. The reason that I'm not confident in this is because, well, first we'll even see if they get the bounty rune here on the bear. It's going to be, yeah, picked up by the Invoker, so that's okay. But even still, you're up against Lone Druid and Ogre, as well as Rubik. All three of these guys are really good at punishing missteps and positioning, and Telekinesis, in fact, is really good at drawing out the Wind Run. You pop Wind Run, you TK them back, and you really don't get much distance here trying to escape. So while the Sand King has boots and should be able to kind of move in and out of the fight, the Wind Ranger kind of has to be very careful about how she commits to this position.
Well, Sand King hiding away in the trees here, as you can see. He is hoping to be able to get the wraparound. I mean, that's something, if there's a way to do it, it feels like this might be it. You hide out in the trees with your main stunning hero. You're able to get a long wraparound, and then if they pressure forward, because they're expecting just to be, now maybe the solo Wind Ranger, you can find a kill possibly, but I don't know, what's the percentage? Who's the main target? Can you take on the Lone Druid here, since he doesn't have Savage Roar?
Yeah, that's the question. I do think that Lone Druid is actually pretty squishy at early levels. He can be pretty focused down pretty well, and a lot of the times Lone Druids will kind of, because they always have the bear in front of them, be overconfident in how kind of tanky they are. But the Rubik is your second choice. You're never going to go on the Ogre in this situation, but the Rubik's 5593 is much more likely to be overextended and punishable than the Lone Druid is.
And other lanes, the TA versus Invoker, that's a pretty rough matchup for the Invoker, if I'm not mistaken, as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are variants like Quas Wax can do a decent bit of damage to the TA and can sustain themselves really well. But in this position, like, yeah, you're just sitting back. You're not going to deny much from the TA at all.
Well, they're going on to Leemic. They actually have a lot of magical damage. They're going to have another power shot in 7 seconds. The right click's coming through. Are they going to be able to find him, though? He's still so freaking tanky, and, well, that's going to end up being Eden going down. They miss the Burrow Strike. They find the kill onto Leemic, but they've already lost the Venge, and now Koala in trouble as well. Oh, God, this has gone so terribly for RRQ.
They don't have the Orb of Venom on the bear yet, so they couldn't punish the Sand King, but he's still, like, out of mana, unable to do anything, and yeah, just being extremely aggressive and going on the wrong target here. The hero that has, in this situation, 8 armor, 700 HP, and a lot of HP regen to work with. So just bad target priority. They really have to go on the squishier, more vulnerable targets, or they're just going to get punished. And that's with the Venge participating. So it's a full try on try, and they lose the first exchange.
I think a part of the reason for that as well is because they spotted out this vengeful spirit who was moving up just barely in the area here. And when he moved in division,
Oh, okay.
no.
Zephyr's not having a good game so far. They've even got a sentry down
Yeah.
in case they want to try to focus him. He's not going to go for Sandstorm too early here, maybe level 4. But yeah, it's just like they don't seem to have great opportunities. Even now, they missed the Burrow Strike opportunity thanks to the telekinesis. They just need to sync up. They need to hit the perfect chain stuns, or they're already going to have lost this top lane.
I just need to throw this out there real quickly. We've been watching a lot of the top tier of the SEA, and you can definitely tell there's a difference here. Not a huge, flame against RRQ, but they're just not performing at that same level, and it's already pretty evident that that's the case. I'm wondering, though, maybe you create a little bit of chaos in these fights already. Lone Druid might feel a little bit under pressure, despite the fact that he's been able to find a couple of kills. I don't know, do you need to be worried at all about maybe going too ham for Execration and then you end up getting punished for it?
I mean, you always have to be worried about overconfidence in this kind of situation where you get a couple of free pickups and you just feel like the game's yours already. You don't want to overstep too much, and I do think that when the Venge hits level 6 in particular, you can really punish missteps, but as it stands right now, I think they're pretty aware of what RRQ are bringing to bear against them, and they just have the tools to deal with it. They have the heroes at the right place at the right time, and I just don't feel like they are too pressured at this moment.
Well, Koala's still able to CS, so it's something. It's something, but it's not great. And it does also look like Execration trying to put themselves in a position to get these pulls off, deny some more experience away from the rest. Oh, they're smoked up on Zephyr. They'll never expect it. He's coming in hot. I mean, can they find a kill here if they don't spot out the Sand King?
I mean, there's always opportunities. The Rubik is not close enough to really get involved here, so it just comes down to actually getting the first stun out, and it looks like they can actually isolate the supports here, but they need to get everybody in very quickly.
Oh.
No, just they see it too projected, they're just going to leave them on a wild goose chase, and Lone Druid farms in the meantime. He's actually top CS. It gets an aggro try.
Okay. Let's take a look at the other lanes for a second, because this is a little bit tragic.
It's a little depressing when you put it that way.
Nando and Yappy, they're farming in the mid lane a little bit.
Oh, is that a kill on Weaver?
Oh! All right. Well, thank you very much. I was looking mid, ended up having to kill bottom. Things are not going well right now.
As he's trying to Shikuchi away under tower, just pretty much the last second, it comes off cooldown.
God, Zephyr, he's going to get right-clicked as well. He is dead. 5-1. RRQ, where did it all go wrong?
Well, from minute 1, I would say that they are already in a really tough spot in terms of their draft. I feel like the 3 heroes that they're going up against are really good at dealing with aggressive tries. Like, the Rubik is kind of the weakest of the 3, but he's been playing back, and he's just doing what he needs to do, telekinesis to chase after RRQ overextends themselves. So, really, like, it doesn't matter in the end. Like, yeah, Rubik's not that great before level 6, but he's been able to contribute what he needs to, and RRQ just don't seem to have the synergy and coordination that you were hoping for.
I really like this build out of DJ, too. He's going for 2 in return early on. So Weaver, very low damage, but he's still going to be taking a ton of damage from all the harassment he tries to level on the Centaur.
Yeah, and he actually went for the Ring of Health early here, is trying to sustain against that kind of self-harassment. But meantime, we have a rotation on mid here, and it should be a pickup on the Invoker.
Stampede at 5 minutes, going to pull him back in with that telekinesis. Right-click's coming through in the Sunstrike. Not going to really do all that much. Nando surviving through it. Leemic is going to end up falling, but they might be able to bring down Eden as well. Well, maybe not. Burrow Strike, Nando, he ends up falling. So they take down 2. It's something going well for RRQ.
So that's the overconfidence factor. He had the regeneration rune on the Templar Assassin. He tried to get the maximum value out of it by just putting himself out there, and in the end, he just gets stunned under tower. You can see that coming decent distance away, and Rubik's actually going to be picked up by the Sunstrike here. So nice little grab there for the Invoker, and put himself on the board for sure.
All right, well, 4-7, and it is feeling more and more like things are getting a little bit scrappy, but almost a 3,000 net worth lead. It was for a moment at 6 minutes in. It's quite bad. And I'm not exactly sure, like, where's the comeback potential here for RQ's draft? Is it around those level 6s, or can they, like, we saw the rotation mid, do they just need to try and replicate that over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, they need a lot of pickoffs. Obviously, the Hand of Midas for Gabby is going to be coming in about 900 gold, and that will be a gradual comeback factor. Beyond that, they definitely need to just kind of find really good picks on the Lone Druid, or on the enemy cores in general. The Centaur is going to be the hardest, but the Lone Druid and the TA, it's definitely doable, and you need to find those pickups, or you're not going to be able to really gain any traction in this game.
Well, DJ continuing to show off his stuff here. Level 7 for himself. That Stampede worked out for him fairly well in the mid lane after the little bit of the tragic miss. And now RQ actually going to make a rotation over. They're going to try and pressure, and this might be able to bear fruit.
Yeah, they've got a lot of movement speed here on Zephyr, but there's going to be a Stampede away from DJ. No, doesn't pop the Stampede.
Sunstrike down as well. They end up comboing together. DJ is actually just going to be able to walk away, though, for the moment. Kel'Thuzad diving deep, wants to find it, misses the hoof stomp, and there's the time lapse back. So they are going to be okay, and DJ just a little bit overconfident there.
Yeah, so he really just could have popped the Stampede as soon as he saw them coming, but thought that he could hold it in reserve and it wouldn't prove necessary. In that case, obviously, proved incorrectly. But in the end, the 5th kill for RRQ, at least kind of stabilizing a very shaky early game. And Quell actually has some decent farm now. He's got himself a phase boots on top of his null talisman, so he's going to be able to put out some decent DPS here with the focus fire.
Well, we certainly need something out of this Wind Ranger. I feel like it's a kind of an interesting place that the hero's in, with that level 10 talent added in, the 4 mana regen, which is just so value. We've been seeing some people mess around a little bit with support Wind Ranger, where you like run mid and just power shot against the opposing mid. Do you think that the offlane Wind Ranger still has a lot of value, or do you need some other of like steroid, either an amp damage or the Drow Ranger thing? Like, is this viable here?
I mean, the Wind Ranger can work always. The item progression is going to be the key thing for me. What he decides to really prioritize here. There are 3 methods you can really go on the hero. You can go for something more farm intensive, like a Maelstrom, which still does good damage in combat. Just go straight for the Aghanim Scepter to focus on what their lineup's already strong at, which is single target physical DPS. Or you can go for the surprise factor and go for the Blink Dagger. Right now, the Sand King is at 650 gold, so he should get a Blink Dagger at maybe 15 minutes. We went for the Iron Talon, so we'll slow him down slightly, but we'll improve his farm rate overall, of course, across this game. That being said, yeah, I mean, he has all 3 of those options available to him. They're not doing terribly right now.
Okay.
One thing I got to keep in mind is this Invoker's actually doing quite well for himself in terms of just overall experience per minute. He's at 420. He's got his Hand of Midas. And I got to say that just combining that, like a Shackle Shot or any kind of good chain stun, you're going to be able to get some really good Sunstrike damage out. So while it did look very shaky to start things off, and they didn't accomplish what they wanted in the laning configuration, I do think that they're in a better spot now with some more potential.
Okay. So we'll have to see if they're able to continue to build upon that, or if possibly Execration are going to be able to take that next step towards trying to build an advantage. Meanwhile, over in the woods, we've got an Ogre and a Rubik. We're just sort of hanging out here, and I guess maybe trying to set up something if Sand King happens to step too far afoot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've gotten a lot of opportunities this top lane so far, but it's just going to be a little bit of bloodlust, rapid play. They'll just eat up the tower pretty much.
Okay.
Sand King's not in a great spot to hold position here.
Does look like the Wind Ranger is going to head back to home, ends up picking up the Staff of Wizardry, and now off to possibly power shot the creep wave more if it happens to move too far forward. But yeah, this is kind of an interesting little configuration again. You've got your Rubik in the mid lane. He's farming up, already level 6. Your TA can take down the Ancients, which has been stacked up at this point 3 times. And it feels like Execration are just getting a lot out of the map.
This one Nando's been really good about, actually. He already took a double stack from the other Ancient camp, now getting a triple here. So him stacking and his support stacking has been very proactive, but now they're going to be able to get this kill in Rubik's mid.
Now, nice little movement out, Sunstrike to follow, and Yappy continuing to build that advantage that he's had. And I guess that's something else that we could talk about. Alacrity onto Wind Ranger with Focus Fire.
No, we
No?
can't talk about that.
We
She
can't
gets
talk
max
about that.
attack speed from Focus Fire, so there's
Well, he has damage, though.
yeah, the damage increase is there, but it's without Aghanim Scepter, it's still mitigated by 50%.
Okay.
So it's until Aghanim Scepter comes into play, it's really not going to be much of a factor. And yeah, it's nice, but like I don't think the synergy is nearly there as much with Wind Ranger as it is with other heroes.
Okay. Well, DJ building towards the Blink Dagger after the casual Ring of Health. Do also have the Ring of Regen, excuse me. Do have Koala who's heading up towards the top side, and looks like Lone Druid might realize that something's going on. And, well, do they want to defend this?
We'll see. They have to get the first stun out is the big key here. There's just too much movement speed on this hero. Rabbit plus phase boots, and as long as he sees the enemy, he's perfectly fine. So it's actually going to be now the Federal Spirits is in trouble. One root, and he's dead.
Oh, my goodness
One root.
gracious.
Nope, doesn't
Well,
even need it.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. And also able to take the Wave of Terror. Only level 1, but
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
maybe they could take an early Roche with it, though, with the TA Meld Strike
Yeah.
minus armor.
Yeah, I mean, you got Blightstone, you've got Meld, so you definitely have some good negative armor no matter what, but I don't think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back on Roshan. Like, oh, I have the level 1 Wave of Terror. Now we can do the big boss man. I think they had the tools at their disposal already. It's just about timing, how long it takes them.
Lumic, well, he goes down, but they're able to take one in return.
Nice
shackle shot onto Nando in some trouble. They magic missile up that Wind Ranger, trying to run away with the Stampede, but the damage is going to be too significant. They go in for the double edge. Eden is going to get the wand charge off, and now the ice wall as well. Execration, what have you done?
This is what they needed. They just need the enemy to misstep, just go too far, and when they can punish it with all these really good disables, they're in business. 5593 completely out of position, but the Shikuchi should be enough to get him away. So it's just one thing that the lineup has, other than single target DPS, is disable. They've got a lot of disable when you can get these shackle shots consistently. So it just comes down to them landing their abilities in the way they intend to, and following through from there. Very, very nicely execute, and obviously an overextension from Execration.
Invoker now roughly halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way actually to his Aghanim Scepter. You mentioned earlier how he's been farming like a champ. You've got the Lone Druid on the other side who's got a nice little chunk of farm for himself, but we can see if they just manage to hold him in place, Sunstrikes, Meatballs drop down onto people's heads, it's going to be an issue. And now, possibly Execration, if you're at this point, you already have the Blink Dagger on center, you kind of want to get aggressive, but you just lost a fight. Do you need to go back in for another round or try and slow down a little bit?
As long as they coordinate better, as long as they're all there when the fight begins, they can still work together. I mean, they have the Blink Dagger and the Centaur, and now an Invis Rune on him as well. You can also build the fight around your Lone Druid, which is your most farmed here on the map, and you should treat it like that. You should say, okay, well, you've got 850 some odd attack range on this hero. He's got a Maelstrom. He's ready to do tons of damage, and all you need is the initiation for him. So if they can play with that in mind, have a game plan, have a formation, and not just kind of wander 4v5 into the enemy jungle, I think they're going to be in a better spot.
Invoker did spot that the Centaur was there with an Invis Rune by this Observer Ward and then moved over into the jungle, maybe not expecting that the Centaur followed him the entire way, and now TA in this top
She's
lane,
got a dagger too.
They are going to jump right on top, and Yappy brought down, and again, you saw the movement over, but maybe not expecting that he went the full distance.
Exactly, and having that second dagger allows you to follow through nicely. I wasn't actually expecting a Blink Dagger, honestly, from the Templar Assassin, because she has a Centaur on her team, she's got Bloodlust, so she's got a lot of mobility already. Sometimes you'll see like a Tread Yasha build, so focusing more on like just raw movement speed and attack speed. But in this case, no, it's the Assassination build, and it's going to be the Blink Dagger that she picks up before the Desolator.
Yeah, it's sort of like what you talked about. You got the Blink now so you can stave Stampede in case you happen to maybe go a bit too far like we saw earlier, and you know, the oh shit button, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, Zephyr already missed 2 Burrow Strikes, right? So if you're stampeding around, it's going to make it all the harder for him to land those.
Yeah. So Weaver now building back into the Lincoln Sphere as a first item. No boots, which I'm sure everybody loves to see. And now back towards the Dragonlance. Well, we haven't really seen too much more progression since the 4 staff out of the Wind Ranger. But net worth lead into the favor of Execration in spite of the last couple of minutes. Going well for RRQ.
Yeah, so at least they're back. Like, obviously, this game looked almost as big a stomp as WWF would be against the Faceless, but no, it's actually stays not leading. RQ looks to be in a better spot, so we'll see how it pans out in the long run. But the one thing that I am worried about is that RQ is not taking towers at this point in time. They're still all 3 tier 1s up and pretty healthy. And Weaver going for like a very defensive build in literally a Lincoln Sphere rush.
Ooh, this movement though. You have the Blink Dagger reveal now. The Sun Strike, it's already there on top of him. Did he end up channeling Epicenter right there? No, he didn't. All right, well played. So they have that still if they wanted to go for a Burrow Strike off cooldown in 2 seconds. The hoof stomp on the Kelter side. They're all lined up though. No, he ends up going for the swap. Eden pulling him out of the way, but there's still a ton of damage. Power Shot takes down Leemic. Wasn't quite able to take down the Rubik, and they find another
Caustic.
one off the back of it.
Yeah, Caustic Finale still ticks through, and that is going to be 3 kills with the unveiling of that Blink Dagger. Just a Lone Druid alone would be an amazing pickoff. That pickup alone gives them 500 gold to the bench, but being able to follow it up with the 2 support kills as well as this tier 1 bottom, this is exactly what RRQ were looking for in terms of game plan. And it just goes to show that no matter how shaky your laning phase starts, you can't count the game out.
Oh, mid lane, DJ, they a little bit off the mark with the combination, but they still have that cold snap as well. And we got to, again, put into context where this is for the qualifiers. This is a must-win game for Execration at this point. If you lose to RRQ, you are basically not going to be moving on to the playoffs, particularly given their 1-3 start yesterday. So definitely feeling under the gun, and you can see it in play a little bit shaky from time to time.
Yeah, I think that's probably true for both of them. I think that once you get to your 4th loss here with only 1 win, then you realize that you're in a pretty desperate situation and in a group stage where you only play 9 games. So in this context, yeah, I do feel like either one of them could consider their group stage on the line for the remainder of the competition. And right here, right now, it seems like both are starting to shape up. At first, I was like, what is this RQ play? Like, this is not what I expected from them at all, but they are looking a lot stronger. That being said, Execration breaks smoke right in front of them under tower. And actually going to be, I think, in better initiation position for the Sand King, who has an Invisorin and the dagger on the side.
He's hanging out for the moment, not going in. Nando jumps forward, and it looks like that is going to spell enough that RQ don't want to go too farther forward. Like Weaver, he can split push up the top lane. Everybody go back to farming. Like this Invoker still has miles to grow. Are you still concerned about them not really taking down too many towers? Like this is just their 2nd one now at this point, or do you think it's okay considering they've started to farm a little bit better?
Well, I mean, RQ just picked up 2, so the fact that they just went up from 0 to 2, they're able to at least start chipping away and being able to do what their lineup was designed for. I think that they're feeling a lot better. That being said, Execration, take the tier 1 in mid and then try to go for Roche. Instead, though, it's going to be RRQ putting up some pressure here with the Invoker on the front line. Not much in Wex, but enough to spook him off.
Yeah. And he actually does start to transition into those since he has maxed out X-Sword as well at this point, building back towards that mobility item in the Blink Dagger. Just Blink Daggers everywhere this game. That's what you need. I like it.
For sure. Movement and positioning is key here for sure. I mean, obviously, Kel'Thuzad decided not to go for the boots of speed, but I mean, it's nice enough that he went for the Lincolns because not only are you going to be able to deal with a lot of disables, actually Burrow Strike onto Centaur bottom. The Sunstrike will be on 3 with the 2 creeps and the hero, but the Cold Snap might be enough to keep him in place.
Yeah, they're going to have that Caustic Sass as well. Another Blink up in, well, there's the Tornado Lift, and this should be enough with the Burrow Strike as well. Oh, off the mark, he's in the trees! What?
No,
DJ's out of there, no! RRQ, it was so beautiful before.
Oh, come on. Zephyr, this is not how the hero needs to be played. I mean, I'm glad he shook off the rust like a little bit with, like, when you start a game and you miss 2 burrows in a try-if-you-try situation, you got to be, like, kicking yourself. I'm glad that he shaped it up. He's like making some really cool blink plays, doing some Sand King things. But then after that, it's like, it's just frustrating again.
Time to redeem yourself, man. They're moving in towards Roche. They are going to back out now, realizing they can't really take it. Also, Rubik, stolen Shackle Shot. Okay. Huge spell to get combo together, particularly with some solid initiation already from DJ. The Force Staff to keep him alive for the moment. Epicenter comes out. He misses the Burrow Strike. They were all right in front of you. How do you do that? And now the Shackle onto 2 to secure the retreat. Oh no!
Game is hard, man.
What?
I don't know the Indonesian
I've
pick,
never
to be
seen
honest.
that.
But we see the Weaver getting locked down really hardcore. Gonna be
Oh.
dropping down the Weaver and the Rubik at the same time, but Execration the ones to take the Roshan on the back of it. So Rosh is gonna fall now, and that is gonna be Execration taking the more important objective as a whole.
I don't like the flame players because
I mean, it's obvious. Like, anybody
exactly.
can see.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, there was one spot that he could have thrown the burrow strike to not hit anything, and he found that mark.
Dude, sometimes you go bowling, you roll some gutters.
Yeah.
You could be a championship. I'm sure that there are championship bowling players. They hit 10 pins every ball, and then they hit a gutter every once in a while. It happens.
And outside of that, he's been having a decent game. Like, there's been a couple of missed burrows, but he's made the rotations that are the right moves. Like, there's a good idea there.
Yeah, and his blink play, his fight bottom was immaculate. It's just here he whiffs the burrow strike. He clicks on the ground. Like it was like a safety burrow. It was like I'm clicking literally on your hero, and it's not working.
And again,
get that man a new mouse. I don't know, but
in the context of this game, they're also doing a great job of coming back into it. Like, you look at it, it's still been a little bit of a rocky road, and now you have a BKB completed on the TA. Oh, that might actually be tragic. Invoker, nice blink out of there, realizing the Ogre and the Rubik were in the area. Kel'Thuzad, they spot out a couple. Bro strike a little bit there onto DJ. Trying to get away. Eden force-staffed away as well. The Shackle onto Leemic, but they're onto Yappy. That's so much damage from Nando, and, well, slowed in the ice wall, but maybe another chance at an opening here. He does have Epicenter as well as Burrow Strike available. Nando gets the Refractor Charge up. The huge stomp, though. The turnaround. They end up exploding everybody, but there's the win run. The Epicenter is not quite in time, nor enough damage, but they have been able to bring down the Lone Druid off the back of it. Nando now slowing up Koala, but they are not going to chase any further forward. Oh, it was close. It was close to being glorious.
yeah, I mean, they did bring everybody very low, but this Pipe of Insight was actually a really great pickup from DJ. We got to see it on mid where he got the Epicenter on multiple heroes. Burrow Strike on none, but at least the Epi did almost no damage because he popped Pipe immediately. So the Pipe has been really just paying dividends. They do end up losing the Aegis, but TA should have a BKB on the Courier coming out now. And yeah, he's still feeling very confident for his fighting potential. On top of that, the Lone Druid continues to build himself up. Right now, he's sitting with his 55 damage talent, his Mjolnir, his Dragon Lance, pretty much hitting all the benchmarks you're expecting, and then going in for this BKB next.
All right, well, back into it, and can see 15-15 the score. It's still been like very much just this back and forth game, and in spite of the Aegis, I was expecting a bigger win there for Execration. I don't know. Do you start to be a little bit concerned at this stage that even when they haven't been hitting all their spells, even when they have the Aegis, Execration are still only coming out even?
I mean, I'm not too much just because of the scalability of their heroes.
Okay.
Just the fact that the TA, we know that she can get 6 slotted heavily. The Lone Druid has 12 item slots to work with for whatever that's worth. And most of the time, they're just kind of pushing towards their next level. Like, if you can get level 20 and 25 on some of these heroes, it could be insane. We've seen that with Centaur a lot, with Lone Druid plenty. So I think that overall, it's just kind of building blocks for the next stage of the game. I feel like the longer you go on in this game, the 4 range heroes work less and less. Like, there's a reason Drow Chats end the game quickly. It's not just because they do a lot of attack damage, it's because they're very flimsy in high disable, high initiation environments. And actually, Venge, almost getting 2-shot there, has just enough HP to work with, but Nando, with a haste rune, almost just finishes him off that way.
All right. Well, they don't decide to go for it.
Oh, I mean, going around the trees, and when you see 2 TPs coming in, I think that's pretty terrifying. So
yeah,
it's much like it's so much easier to flame somebody diving than not diving in that situation, because it's like that is actually just the easiest bait of Vengeful Spirit's life in that situation. You shift clear 1 Burrow Strike, and it's a dead TA.
So Gabby, in the meantime, is continuing to get more and more farmed, as you mentioned, and building towards that BKB as well. It's kind of interesting to me because you talk about the scalability of their heroes into the late game, and all it makes a lot of sense. But they're also going for like these sort of finish the game now-ish type of items.
Fight now at the very least. They don't really need to end the game on these BKBs, but they know that this is their weakest point of the game, and they want to extend the play. Nice combo of stuns coming out onto the Centaur Warrunner to pick him up, but he did pretty much buy out all of his unreliable gold, so he's still very close to his Aghanim Scepter. But yeah, I agree with you that with the BKB early on the TA and coming up soon on the Lone Druid, actually it looks like he's done it now, I do think that they are kind of fighting present tense and they're building present tense because they realize that if RRQ is going to win the game, it's going to be in the next like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Dire's structures
Well,
will
top
fall.
lane, they're going to see if they can make it happen right now, pressuring the tier 2 tower and with a Sunstrike from the other side of the map if they wanted to. Oh, he's got the bots. Okay, he's coming in with them as well. There's no chance that they try and go for any further pressure up the hill at this point, right?
I mean, that's their decision, right? Like,
Yeah.
they definitely have the ability to do so, at least some Forge Spirit poking, but it doesn't seem to be a very safe maneuver.
Yeah. Nando, Blink, 3,000 gold on top of his BKB as well. The Diffusal Blade is done now for the Weaver, and they just keep on farming out the Execration, the enemy jungle, while kind of trading them off, in fact.
I don't think I've really talked too much about this Weaver going for the Linkage Rush, other than the fact they didn't have boots, but it's actually really good against Rubik in particular, because early on, Rubik's not going to have, we see the pickup here on DJ. All the pipe mitigation in the world.
Maybe, possibly, they get the last right click with the Caustic. It's not going to end up being nearly enough, and
Oh,
Yappy lifted back up. He's going to fall, so they take him down. They do manage to get DJ.
But I think they'll lose the Sand King here. He's got a little bit more time, and they've just got a little bit too much damage.
Yeah, Burrows strike in 2, and actually has a Force Staff up in a second as well, but Burrows to the side, and
No way.
Force Staff
No
away.
way.
What? Zephyr! Who needs to hit Burrows strikes when you're that damn good at getting out?
Just juke it. I don't know. That was actually pretty sick.
All right, Zephyr. All is redeemed. Not really, but yeah, let's call it that.
At least it's a nice little roller coaster ride for him. He'll go look back at this replay and be like, "That was just off. Oh, that was sick. That was sick. Oh, no, this is bad. Don't watch this part, guys."
Exactly.
It's just I don't know. In the end, you play Dota for some fun and for to brag about your play a little bit. So he's got a few different things to brag about this time around. But yeah, they do pick up the Centaur at least. Not really crazy about trading the Invoker for it, but they obviously thought it'd be a lot easier to get that pickup. Yep, Weaver's feeling pretty good with himself. Going for another defensive item in the BKB now. Like, I like the Lincolns because Rubik can't get like a blink lift on you easily because he won't have a Force Staff to break your Lincolns. He also can't spell steal Shikuchi easily, which is actually one of the best steals this game next to like Burrow. But now going for BKB on top of the Lincoln Sphere, I am a little bit worried that he's just going to be kind of sitting there and they can just ignore him.
Yeah. I guess you do start to have some of that damage now come out from Koala, who's just finished off the Aghanim Scepter. And
oh, sure, but then they'll just focus Koala. Like, they can get MKB on somebody or a Bloodthorn and just kind of like say, okay, well, Weaver, you can have Heart BKB Lincoln's I have Scotty, like the most tanky build in the world, and we will just let you run around in circles while we kill your teams.
yeah, and no Deso either at this point, so the split pushing potential of the hero a little bit less than it would be otherwise. The Aghanim Scepter's done for Sand King as well, so this is something to consider. It's a bunch of these items where they've been relatively even in net worth, but it's been 4,000 gold items that haven't been getting that full value yet. Like, a lot of net worth tied up in it, and now they do have it. Likewise, the Centaur just finishing his. Is this enough of a power spike here where you see RRQ really going into fully contest Roshan?
Yeah, I think they do have some good team fight potential. They have to have really good vision going into it. They only have one ward right now, which should be fine for at least the next couple minutes. But like, obviously they want to contest this top tier 2. The question is, do they have the wherewithal? Do they have the heroes in the right position to do so? Right now we have some observer wards seeing these heroes rotate, and I think Execration have a better idea about RRQ's position than the other way around.
Yeah, and they are just going to back out now. Probably a good decision to get out of there. And Burrow Strike was stolen as well for the Rubik. Not sure when exactly that happened, but really good pickup. It happened a long time ago.
It would have been the chase where he was able to juke his way out of it.
Okay.
Cue the yakety sack music. But Benny Hill theme rolling through our heads. We do have the potential pickup here of a Lotus Orb for the Ogre, which is kind of interesting. It could be like a really sick Shadow Shot Reflect, but more often it's just going to be some more basic spells. I'm actually, I guess Nether Swap, it can counteract that quite a bit too, since it literally just negates the spell.
Yeah.
But
The Purge is pretty good as well, though. That's the thing. Like,
what's it purging this game, though?
That's a good point. Okay. Maybe.
It's like you,
maybe
yeah,
not.
yes. You know, I'm trying to. It's like, yeah, it's
Cold
only.
Snap?
good in context.
Cold
And
Snap?
I think Cold Snap has changed between purgeable and non-purgeable and strong dispellable and weak dispellable like 8
Okay.
times. I can't even keep up with that stuff. I
Whoa,
doubt
a
Ice Frog
sheep
can.
stick for the TA as well. All right.
Indeed. That's an item pickup. It's not one you see very often.
It's great. I love it. This is wonderful.
Yeah, I guess they just want more control. They realized that if they could just like get a hex on the Wind Ranger, I was expecting MKB or Bloodthorn as I mentioned, but if they could just get a hex on the Wind Ranger before she win runs, that might be fine too.
All right. Meanwhile, Zephyr continuing the split push game for himself. Incredibly mobile while we miss a kill on the Vengeful Spirit, who...
They've like hexed them with the ward vision that I was mentioning before. This intel really helps.
All right, hex revealed for the TA. Now you know. It's actually so scary for the Invoker as well.
Yeah, pretty tough for him to kind of play around now, and he has to worry about that as well.
All right, Nando in the pit. With no Venge, I still think that they could go in there and probably contest. And they also, like, she's back up in just a second. So, not too scary. Yappy's going to move down towards the bottom lane, pressure this one out. But yeah, the Bloodlusted TA, and we hadn't talked yet about it, but you mentioned during the draft the refraction charges, how good those are. The level 25, which is almost there for Templar Assassin, adds that next little bit of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's extremely potent. Only Wind Ranger can shoot through it very quickly, and with the BKB on, yeah, it's going to be extremely effective for Nando to just soak up most of the damage they're going to throw at him. Especially if you get that twice in a fight. 2 sets of refraction in 1 fight, and Nando just almost can't die.
No. So they weren't able to get in there in time to contest against the DD'd Templar Assassin, and because of that, going to have to probably play on the defensive at this point. When is that? You said that right now RQ are fairly under the gun with their draft. What's that sort of timing when it's like they... Is it more just about like every fight becomes harder?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's like, obviously they're still in a position where they can siege really well, they can fight under certain circumstances decently, but I just feel like when you're stressing this game out longer and longer, you reach the 50-minute mark and you're like, what is our draft meant to accomplish? We have one really good, reliable stun initiation, and then others that hope to follow up, and then you're up against these massive cores with, you know, 2 sets of refraction and BKBs and hexes and level 25. It's really tough.
Oh man, they're all grouped up together for a moment. Tornado coming through, end up popping the BKB away from it, and now that's going to be Invoker trying to run away from this. Already losing the Sand King. A lot of that disable is already taken off. Koala stunned for the moment as well. Kel'Thuzad is going to break the blink of DJ, and that's going to be 2 dead. Very important heroes, and Execration just looking great.
Yeah, he wind ran to try to get into
Oh my god, Eden as well. He's going to drop. Triple kill Fernando.
Yeah, very just crisp, easy, clean execution, and just RQ scrambling to try to respond. They need a perfect fight. They can't just be like we got picked off, let's try to do something about it. That's not the fight they're looking for. They're looking for one big swing like we saw in the mid lane before.
And now they lift back onto the Invoker as well. In trouble. Burrow Strike is going to be there. Zephyr making the plays, and DJ tries to go in for the stomp, a little bit off the mark, but found Kel'Thuzad nonetheless. A long-range Burrow Strike would be great to try and turn this back around. There's the Deafening Blast, the disarm for Nando. Can they do it? Burrow Strike comes in from Zephyr in the clutch, and Gabby now trying to run him down after the Savage Roar. Nando is back after that Aegis expired.
They got the buyback from the Invoker, though. That's the big thing. Yabby going in. Tornado, EMP coming out onto the Ogre. Should be dropping very quickly, but can the Sand King pick up more? Isn't able to find the Burrow Strike into the trees despite the Aghanim Scepter.
Oh, they got him. Cold Snap, Cold Snap. They got him. Gabby got caught. Well played. They were just barely able to get the vision. The Savage Roar comes out, but Gabby is dead.
That's the pickup they needed. They definitely needed more out of that buyback than just the Invoker, just the Ogre, but they do pick up the Lone Druid on top of that. Still probably because of the shorter respawn time, thanks to the talent at level 20, it's not going to be forcing any buybacks in return. So they at least got some golden experience off the Invoker buyback, but otherwise they weren't able to get really too much. And if the Invoker drops again, they're in real trouble. Because you'll notice in that fight, they completely ignored the Weaver. Like when the Weaver was literally in the front line, the only hero to go on, they're like, yeah, well, we'll take you. But otherwise, they were walking right past him to go to the Invoker or go on the Sand King. So this Invoker is under the gun. He is in some real trouble. He's trying to rush out of Liquid Sphere as fast as he can, but he is now without buyback, and all he has is really a blink and his spells to respond.
Oh, this might be a moment here. Zephyr in the bottom lane. They could get a TP onto the catapult and try and go for the epicenter play, but Boots of Travel on cooldown for the Invoker, so they can't get there. Zephyr's still scouting it, but yeah, and I guess that this is why you end up seeing Weaver now go back for the Mueller build. He needs to have something that, like, he ended up canceling out the BKB that he had queued, is going for more damage.
Yeah,
Do
that's what I
you
call.
like this decision as a whole?
Yeah, he has to have damage. Like, he's just completely useless otherwise. He's just walking around with all the HP in the world and nothing to show for it. So, yeah, gets rid of his Blightstone, starts kind of going for a bit of more magic-intensive build. Curious why he even bothered with the Diffusal Blade in this position. It's not doesn't seem to be adding too much. A little bit of mana burn here and there is nice, but maybe they were trying to like get some sync up with the EMP from the Invoker and a little bit of mana burn from the Weaver. I'm really not too sure.
So 21 to 20, and you do start to at least get another little power spike here for RRQ, but it's feeling like Execration are certainly the ones that are going to be in the control of this game. You do have the +3 refraction instances now for the Templar Assassin, and I mean, I guess the Mjolnir does help to break through that as well. What's your read on their ability to deal with this Templar Assassin, who now also has a butterfly?
I mean, she has a 9-second BKB still, man. Like,
yeah.
All these instances, all these Mjolnir shocks is not going to do much of anything if she has her BKB live. So the way I see it is that you just immediately, Wind Ranger has to focus fire her, and if she still staggers out her refraction properly, where she has 2 of them pretty early in the fight, then I still think that she's going to be able to be extremely confident in her survivability.
I guess you could also just, you know, you talked earlier about that Lotus Orb on the Ogre, throw it on a Nando as well, and then if you walk up on high ground, what are they going to do to stop it? Like, you can't even burrow strike at that point.
I wonder if that's what the philosophy was for the Lotus Orb. Actually, getting the Echo Shell on the Focus Fire, it actually works.
Oh, right.
You can Focus Fire against Wind Ranger, get max attack speed against her specifically. It doesn't really matter if she's wind running, but it's still a neat mechanic.
Yeah.
There's one game in the Summit, actually, where when Lotus Orb was a brand new item, that Wind Ranger Focus Fired a Tiny. And I got to see a max attack speed Tiny for 2 seconds of my life, and it was just as glorious as I imagined it could be.
That's great. I love that. You don't need to buy 6 moon shards to make it happen in your pubs, guys. Just buy a Lotus Orb. It's the key. But DD, oh god, look at the damage that she's got. And I like the Lotus Orb, or rather the Lincoln Sphere pickup for Yappy. I feel like they've got a lot of these defensive tools, but as you mentioned, perfect fight, and you're not always going to get it when it's just this chaotic with all the maneuverable heroes. If they could find Gabby, this would be huge.
Definitely a big pickup for them. They have to be very wary right now that double damage is still in play. Patience is a virtue here. If they see an opportunity, they'll go for it, but it seems like Execration are pretty well aware. Weaver's in the front line, clearly a bait, and it just seems like Execration are not going to be the ones to make the first move. They're in a great position to respond, to counter-initiate, but they are not forcing their hand.
It's a thing that's so interesting, because they also do have the Ags there for the Centaur Warrunner, so you recognize that RQ would then split up and move out across the map trying to farm. They're going to smoke up, see if they can find somebody, and it looks like they are going to... If Invoker heads down, he's going to run into the Centaur.
Yeah, they saw the smoke, they pinged it out with the wards, and they just now broke it. Is it
Yappy
going to be enough
in
to get
trouble.
away?
Well, he pops the Lincoln Sphere, the Stampede, they're on top of him.
Gosh.
Sheepstick as well.
How do you ping that and then just... could have been the other side's pings? Did they have a gem?
Maybe. Already Eden's gone, though, and it's no buyback now. As you mentioned earlier, for the Invoker, 90 seconds. Yeah. And this is just, I think it's over.
They actually just straight up didn't see the smoke. DJ had a gem, and the Rubik was the one pinging, not the bench. So they just didn't see the smoke, and he walks right into it. That is just so painful.
Game-winning smokes. It's a good item. Shackle onto 2, but they are going to need more than a miracle to make this one work. Helduzard, he's going to be sheeped up, controlled as well. And it looks like with the buyback from the Weaver, it's everything that they hope for. It's not going to be there, though.
Even with backdoor production here, it looks like it's still going to be going down. He does not get shackled. That's going to be a stun coming out with Wind Ranger, and her Wind Run is running out. And the MKB of the Lone Druid just doesn't care anyways.
Yep. And they are, I mean, if they want to, they can just go for tier 4s at this point. Backdoor protection's off. They know that there's no buyback for the Invoker. Not sure about the Wind Ranger, but they're going to play it safe. Eyes on the prize. Melee barracks going down across the board.
Well, they got the bear, at a buyback penalty. But we do see that it is going to be 2 full lanes of Rax gone, and Sanking forced into his last-ditch position. Tries
Oh
to
my
beat.
God.
He actually just gives the burst strike to Rubik. Just have some fun. 5-5-9-3. We're done, Zo. GG. Well played. Go next.
All right, RRQ, it looked good for a little while. There were moments, there
Yeah,
were points in time.
It did shape up towards the mid game. I will definitely admit that it looked rocky from the start. They got their head back in the game, and unfortunately, Execration just were able to play their draft to a T. So they took advantage of the early momentum that they received, and after one slight misstep towards the mid lane, they were able to get a pretty clean game on their hands.
Well, a pretty great game from Gabby and Nando. I feel like DJ too. His play, particularly in the laning stage, felt really strong to me. Finding that solo kill on the Weaver as well. And all in all, a great performance. Is this what they need? Like Execration, we've talked a little bit about how the SCA qualifiers have looked. Again, they were 1-3 going into today. This makes it a little bit better for them. But can they beat out the likes of a Geek Fam, a TNC Pro Team, Mineski, Clutch Gamers, this sort of top of the table, with the exception of obviously Faceless, who's nobody's going to beat? Like, there's 2 spots for SEA. Do you think they can claim one of them?
Yeah, that's the real question. Obviously, everybody's here to find that out, but I feel like of all these teams that have lost 3 games, I mean, Execration is probably, Team Bizarre and Execration are probably the 2 that I'd look to try to bring it back here. So obviously that means that they need the win over Geek Fam and Faceless, and that's not too easy. So really excited to see those matchups as they come to play. But we've got a great matchup coming up next.
Absolutely. Very excited to catch this one, and it is going to be Faceless facing off against Geek Fam. This one for me, if Geek Fam win it, they are most likely in the playoffs, and they're one of the teams that potentially has the chance to do it. Like, they're that middle of the pack, stronger than the average. We'll see if they're able to make it happen. Blaze, any final thoughts before we end up going back to a quick little break here, or anything you want to say?
I want to say that at least RRQ gave us a good show. They didn't just flop over after laning phase and just tilt after that start like a lot of teams would. Beyond that, they did obviously pick up 1 win, but they just continued to underwhelm to an extent. And I do hope that they continue to rebuild their roster and to rethink their gameplay, because I think that they have the potential to be a good team, but we just haven't seen it in these kind of higher profile events.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in. We'll be back in a little bit with our next game, Geek Fam facing off against Faceless, Self-Lyrical as well as Blaze, and we will see you guys in a bit for more from the Kiev Major Qualifiers Southeast Asia region.